Hello, it's Star Trek Voice of Reason back again. My last video was April, I believe, so yep, it's been quite a while. I've been busy, had things to do. Been watching other things apart from Star Trek, like Battlestar Galactica again, rewatching it on DVD. It's brilliant. If you've never seen it before, watch it. The new one, that is. The old one's not bad, but you know, the new one's a lot better. So anyway, I thought I'd come back up here. Last time I was on, I talked about the Twilight movie, and yeah, it was shit. So I thought I'd go back to my roots, which is Star Trek, and I'm probably going to do a two-part video, maybe three, on the Dax storylines and the Trills as a species. So, yeah. The Trill are a species in the Alpha Quadrant. They feature in Star Trek The Next Generation for the first time, and they look different to what they go on to look like in DS9. In The Next Generation, they have like a ridge kind of thing on their head, and they don't have spots down their neck like Jadzia does in Deep Space Nine and any other Trills. Generally, the Trill in The Next Generation's a bit of a pain in the ass. Acts like a gay, doesn't tell anybody about what he is really. You know, gets the symbiont put in Riker. You know, later on DS9 when Jadzia dies, they say it can only go in another Trill. So don't ask me how that works. But Star Trek does that a lot by messing up its current storylines from previous storylines. So yeah, he's a cunt. Hello, Dr. Beverly. That's all he can fucking say all the time. Gets quite annoying. And the guy who originally had the Trill symbiote in that episode dies, so I wasn't shedding any tears for him. So that's a pretty. That's the first time you ever see the Trills. The next time you see one is Jadzia Dax in Emissary Part 1 and Part 2. And for the 7 seasons of Deep Space Nine, obviously. She is. In the first few seasons, she's more like, I'd say more like Spock and Data. You know, they always look for her for suggestions and ways out of things. You know, that's not bad, but you could tell Terry Farrell was probably the weakest of all the actors in Deep Space Nine, and I think she struggled to play a character who was going to have so much depth and like background story to it. And I don't think she really. I think she grew more comfortable with the role, but I always think it was obvious that she was the worst actor out of them all in Deep Space Nine, in my opinion. Even Sarah Lofton as Jake Sisko is probably better than her and had more acting experience. So yeah, she stays like that for the first 2 seasons, and then eventually she kind of turns into you know, kick-ass action hero, I want to fight all the time kind of person, which is okay, but it's not much better than when she was a big sciencey geek. Yeah, a character always annoyed me, to be honest, so yeah. I actually prefer Ezri Dax to Jadzia, which is kind of strange, even though Ezri was only in it for 1 year, but I just don't know. I think her story was more believable, maybe just because of the way it was written and stuff, but, you know, yeah, she was better, and I don't see why they made Jadzia go out of Worf and marry him. It was a completely random relationship, in my opinion. The Dax from the first 2 seasons would have never ended up with Worf, so that just says it all, really. Yeah, so let's go through some of Dax's episodes, key episodes from Deep Space Nine. So we start off with the episode called Dax, and I can't actually remember who. Some douchebag shows up at the station accusing her of killing somebody. And of course she didn't do it, but she won't admit. It was actually to do with Curzon, one of her previous hosts, but she won't admit that it wasn't her or Curzon. She just stays quiet and doesn't want anyone to defend her. She must be retarded or something. Eventually, after Odo helps her out, she admits that, yeah, I didn't kill him, but I know what happened to him. and everything gets resolved. I can't believe in this episode how smug she acts up her own ass. Like, everyone's trying to help her, trying to be a friend, and she's like, hands behind my back all the time. I'm not gonna reply to you, and I'm gonna be really quiet and act like a douchebag. So, yeah, I'm gonna give every episode a rating out of 5 stars, and this one gets a star out of 5, 1 star out of 5. So, yeah, we move on from that, and we go to season 2. It was her next big storyline. In season 1, she had another a few, but they were all pretty crap. She was just thereabouts, really hanging about. So we go to invasive procedures when another guy who thinks he should have been given the Dax symbiote arrives on DS9, and he hired some Klingon mercenaries to help take over the station, while the station's only got a skeleton crew because of an ion storm or something like that. And the Klingons keep the senior staff prisoner in ops, while this Trill and his bird go down to the infirmary and force Dr. Bashir to swap the symbionts. Good thing about, I didn't actually mind this episode, probably because Terry Farrell was mostly unconscious for most of it, and she didn't really do much apart from lay about on a bed, so that was alright with me. The Klingons and the guy who took a symbiont eventually get stopped, obviously, and everything kind of reverts to normal. But it is probably one of the better Dax episodes. I actually quite enjoyed rewatching that not long ago, so I'll give that 2.5 stars out of 5, just average really. And then we have Blood Oath. Later on in the series, she goes on an adventure with Klingons, those old fuckers who are always hanging about. One of them's in it later on, is a friend to Worf. I want to say Kern, but I don't think it is. I don't know. They go to kill some weird alien guy who killed one of the Klingons' children when they were at war with him, or something stupid like that. They proceed to the planet. Dax has gotten special permission to go and disobey every part of the Prime Directive. Fuck, that's gay. That just kind of ruins it for me. She's got this is the transitional point from Sciencey Dax to Warrior Dax. Yeah, I think she ends up killing the guy, actually, to be honest. She kills a lot of innocent people, because this guy's hired people to protect him, but they probably don't know why. If she'd have explained to the guards, like, hey, the guy you're working for, he killed a kid, they'd have been like, oh my god, he's in there, just go on, here's the key, go and kill him, probably. But instead she does it the hard way, and yeah, I'm not gonna tell anybody, let's just storm in the place and murder everybody. Very Starfleet officerish. So, yeah, another decent episode. I'll give that 2 stars out of 5. Okay, season 3, Equilibrium. I'm poor at pronouncing that word. Yeah, she keeps having visions and nightmares of some Trill. Well, you don't know he's a Trill at first. He's wearing a white mask and he's on the promenade, and then he's on the Defiant and he's playing some really gay little piano tunes. I'm not gonna sing it. I was going to, but I'm not. So she gets rushed to Trill, if that's the name of their home world, and they investigate, and eventually they find out she had a host named Joran Dax, who used to have the symbiont, and she never knew about it because he actually murdered somebody to get the symbiont. If you ask me, he seemed like a young man, messed up and didn't know what he was doing. He did it by accident, he regretted it, and he paid for it. So Joran, gets away with it. That's fine with me. You see, at the end it shows Jadzia embracing him in a hug in the dirty Trill water bath pool place, so, she obviously didn't care. So I'll give that episode 2 stars out of 5. We move to Meridian. Ugh, this episode's horrible. The Defiant finds a planet with some people who switch between different times or different universes or something wank like that. And they stay there for a bit. Dax falls in love with some guy. Yeah, I don't care. I've never rewatched this episode since the first time I watched it, and I barely watched it the first time. I nearly turned it off. I hate these kind of stories in Star Trek. Really stupid love stories, which usually in The Next Generation Counselor Troy got. This is just terrible. I'm not even going to go into any more detail about it. The story of Quark back on DS9 making a hologram of Kira for some alien dude's much funnier, so it kind of that keeps the episode good. The Dax part of the episode, 0 stars out of 5. Quark's part of the episode, 5 stars out of 5. So yeah, let's move on. Facets or facets, I don't know. This is another episode to do with Joran Dax and all the other hosts. She has some Trill ritual go on where she gets to meet and visit all the other hosts of the Dax symbiont, and yeah, this time Joran, who I talked about from Equilibrium, has decided he's just going to turn evil. Like last episode, which was earlier in the same season, keep that in mind, he was a messed up young man who made a mistake and regretted it, and everything was fine between them and she accepted him. Now, when he's in Sisko's body, he wants her to lower the force field so he can choke her. He's, for some reason, become a psychopath over the last few months. And the voice that Avery Brooks puts on when he's playing Joran Dax is so gay. I don't know what the writers were smoking when they made this episode, because it makes no sense and completely contradicts the Joran Dax character. But there's an even worse episode where they contradict him, what his original character was, but that's not until season 7 and probably in the next part of the review. And yeah, not only that, Curzon Dax is there, and he goes in Odo, and he turns out to be an absolute bellend. You know, Dax and Sisko are always like, oh man, Curzon was a legend, the parties, the women, but at the same time he was a very sensible and nice man. When you see him in this, he's an absolute twat. He doesn't want to give Odo his body back. He acts like an arrogant fuck. If I met this guy, I'd want to punch him in the face. They just seem like, well, it's Curzon. We love the guy. We can't tell him that he's being a dick. He said that Odo wanted him to stay in his body, but I doubt that. So yeah, because of the way they changed Joran, and Curzon was probably poorly written from what we'd previously heard about him, in my opinion. This episode gets 1 star out of 5. So we've reviewed the first, second, and third season of Dax's storylines in DS9, key storylines. Next review, we'll go on to season 6, season 7, and we will have a summary. And if you want to ask me any questions or anything like that, please feel free to, and please subscribe. So thanks for listening.